Why do 80 or 90% of business owners never leverage and get that freedom they thought that they would have? I'm Suzanne Rath, and this is Endures for your daily dose of endurance leadership and life lessons. And today I want to share with you three models I've built as a business owner who's founded and grown a clinical business with a team of more than 20, and as a coach and speaker who works with people with skin in the game. And in these models, there's basically two realities, red versus green. You don't need to be watching the video. You can catch up later if you like on YouTube or Substack if you're a visual learner like I am. But let's dive in. So the first key to reaching life's ultimate summits, whatever that means to you, is having focus. So how much of our lives are actually filled with things that are designed to steal our focus, like the endless scroll and live chat and emails and WhatsApp? And the scary thing is that research tells us that our minds wander about half of the time. And in work or in life, every time somebody interrupts us with a quick question, it costs us about 20 or 25 minutes to recover. So think about all these unnecessary CC'd emails and group messages and quick check questions, and you're just in Frazzletown, or I am. So when we put this together, fewer than 1 in 5 people experience even a full hour of sustained focus in a day. And I know that an hour of focused work, with my phone away, with no distractions, at my most energized time of day, I can get so much done. But so much of us aren't even experiencing that. And so without that, up to 85% of people find themselves sitting in the red zone where they don't even get that, right? So you're busy doing busy work, you're enslaved by your emails, your notifications, people pleasing, you've got 50 tabs open, you're having pointless meetings. And I know that when I have a day like that, I just don't feel fulfilled at all. And it's not because, we don't care that we end up below the line, but because we're not using the right mindset, the right tools, and the right strategies to actually work on our focus and our attention. And ultimately, this is how vision dissolves. It's in this daily dilution of our energy and our attention span. And so to cross this line from the red to the green, we don't actually need AI, and we don't need a magic app or another productivity trick. Like, those things are helpful, but first we need to make a leadership decision about what we protect. Now, the second core outcome that I am obsessed with is unstoppable momentum. And often as leaders, we think we have momentum. So when I started my clinical business, I worked 6 or 7 days a week, often till like 10 p.m. I thought I was so productive. But the reality is, when I look back, there was things, yes, that I had to do because I didn't have anyone else to do them. But I also was wasting a whole ton of time on the wrong things and constantly depleting my energy. And so most of the leaders I speak with aren't actually stuck because they're incapable, but they're stuck because they're carrying too much. Now, we know that 70 or 80% of businesses are still heavily owner dependent. And to be honest, I have dipped in and out of that point in my clinical business for over 3 years now. So I get it. But the tells are things like forced overconfidence. So thinking about that mental load when you feel like, it's better just to do it yourself, or you're carrying the load and the memory for everything, the constant reminding of everything, and being the escalation point for everything and just being needed everywhere. And the life impact of this that I just refuse to let it hit me is things like, the holiday shrink because it's not the right time, or narrowing your vision and your dreams because it's just too hard, or neglecting your health because you just don't have time to train or to cook or to, sleep. But I know that in this green zone of sustained drive and getting out of that red zone of forced over functioning, what I want for me and for my clients is that progress continues even when you step back, because you've created people who are action taking, accountable, and appreciative. And then that brings us to the last of my outcomes that I'm really passionate about, and it's this one of actualized potential. So if you go all the way back to episode 1, which I recorded in Malaysian Borneo and had terrible sound, you will know that potential is my word for the year. But the hardest truth is this, that most owners never get to live the life they became an owner for. So potential isn't about your BHAGs and your quarterly goals and your strategies and your new systems. And these things are important, and I also have them. But it's about what matters. So heart and soul and self-actualization and, what's uniquely you and why you do what you do and your sense of purpose and your legacy. So you might be outwardly successful and everyone keeps telling you how great you are, but inwardly you're totally out of alignment. Are you making money and you're constantly squirreling it away for some day, but you're risking dropping dead in the office because you're so stressed? And I don't say this to catastrophize, but because we know that on average, chronic disease starts in our early 60s, which means if we don't prioritize the things that matter early, we end up with 20 years of poor health. So you're spending a lot of money on hospital bills. No thanks. But what I know from the people I've worked with and coached and surveyed and presented to is this. So 80 to 90% of leaders and owners are operating in the red zone, where they have their peak mental and physical energy, fighting fires, operating out of their genius zone, and making constant choices and getting decision fatigue. But in the green, at the top of the pyramid, which is 10 to 20% of owners, this is people using their peak years, expanding who they want to become. So this is where you have your freedom, your optionality, and your legacy. And this is where your performance serves your life and not the other way around. And so actualized potential isn't about doing more, but it's about doing what matters to you. And so together, these three models, I call them the aspiration box. And it's not about being in a red or a green box, but it's about what happens at the line between them. And so focus collapses if we don't protect it. Our momentum collapses without structure, and our potential collapses without things like vision and leverage and thinking time and support. And so crossing the line in each of those isn't accidental, but it's trained. The real reason to grow our business or our leadership is not to reach a sales goal or a KPI, which those things are to enable us to reach our life goals. And ideally, our life goals are to spend as much time as possible with our loved ones or doing the things that we love before the sun goes down. Thank you for listening, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow for more from Endures.